In communication with Southern California, KHJ-TV Public Affairs presents Teen Talk. Studies show that teacher expectations play a large part in determining the success or failure in the classroom. Despite teaching and teachers, almost all learning is incidental to the process and takes place outside the classroom. In 1981, only 50% of the students taking the California proficiency test passed. No study has found any correlation between high status in high school and achievement as an adult.
She talks too much. You can't move in his class. He's always comparing me with my brother. Ever since she caught me cheating, she watches me like a hawk. Don't take him. He's really boring. These are just a few of the negative remarks made by students about their teachers. Hi, I'm Joe Feinstein, and today on Teen Talk, we're going to explore the world of teacher-student relationships. For that purpose, we've invited 4 teachers and some of the students to Teen Talk. Welcome, panel. Welcome to Teen Talk. And I'm wondering, what are some of the chief gripes that you teachers have about the students? And students, what are some of the chief gripes that you have about the teachers? Chuck, you want to open
Teen Talk on students and teachers. A discussion with host Joe Feinstein and several students and teachers on the subject of student-teacher relationships.
They cheat themselves. They don't take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. So if they open up and they accept that this is a real opportunity for them, because education in our system is a free situation in which they can benefit greatly. And I think our country is founded on that.
Joe, in those woodworking classes of yours, what are some of the chief gripes that you have about the kids?
Oh, students not really being responsible, not having direction. This is some of the areas that I try to direct the students in my classes.
Mm-hmm.
Being responsible, having direction, getting to class on time. You have to get to work on time, get to class on time.
I know, Irit, that you're a very easy kind of lady and going along, but I'll bet that there are a lot of things that gripe you about what students do. Are there?
Not really one particular gripe. Maybe sometimes I would like the students to be as sensitive to me as they expect me to be to them.
In what way sensitive?
Knowing that I too am a human being and that I have my life also, and that I may come to school sometimes in a bad mood. Things have happened to me in my personal life.
Don't you always come to school in a bad mood?
Yes, and then I turn beautiful.
Uh-huh. And what do you guys complain about? Jeff, what bugs you about the teachers?
The only one thing that I could single out is a teacher who's not going to give a positive influence. You know, a teacher that's going to say, well, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, as opposed to saying, you did this wrong, but here's something right, and you can take that wrong and make it right in this mode.
I see.
Instead of just, you know, beating you down.
All right, good. Dennis, what bugs you about the teachers you have?
Well, I had a history teacher who my brother had previously, and I could feel her picking on me because, you know, she said, well, your brother did this, your brother did that. But then my sister found out the same thing because she ended up having her too, so she had the whole family, and it was crazy.
It was crazy,
yeah.
Huh? She went through the whole family.
Very hard to put up with her.
Yeah, we've been reading about her. She's at Camarillo, isn't she? This teacher? No. What caused you guys to want to become teachers in the first place? Maybe that would be a good place to understand. Judy, you're a substitute teacher now for 4 years, and you've been running around to all these schools. What made you decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
Primarily my personal needs, the fact that I have a child, and I think that my sensitivity to her and her needs and her requirement to have a nurturing person in her life made me feel that I wanted to have a job that allowed me to do something that was gratifying while I was there and still be there for her. But I think that's also increased my sensitivity to the students and the fact that a lot of their parents aren't there a lot of the time and that they miss that, they need it.
I know I was stimulated to this by a teacher that I had in high school. I loved her. I called her Becky Baby. Her name was Mrs. Beckhart. And she was so dear to me. She was the embodiment of a sense of humor with a direction and a purpose in her life. And I was determined to model myself after her life. And I've been trying to. I'm still trying to get the sense of humor. Joe, what caused you to say, hey, I think I'm going to become a teacher?
My high school teacher, my high school woodworking teacher. Is what got me interested.
How was that?
Positive, craftsman, my high school teacher.
Mm-hmm. And what do you kids like to look for when you're applying for a class or signing up for a class? Leon, what do you like?
Energy.
Energy?
Yeah, and if the teacher is fair, if he will be, you know, a positive force, and if he'll help you, if you fall behind in a class, he'd be willing to help you instead of just, well, you're falling behind, that's just your problem.
Mm-hmm. And what do you look for, Maureen? What do you like to do to take? Why do you take certain teachers?
Oh, mainly I pick a lot of male teachers. Almost all my classes are all male teachers. I get along better with male teachers, I think, than I do with. There's a lot of good female teachers, but basically I get along better with male teachers. Cause I talk better with males than I do with females.
And Jeff, what do you like in your teachers?
Again, on energy, you know, a good output from teachers. Also, you know, besides the required classes that you have to take, if I'm going to look for an elective, I want to look for something that I like. And if I know that, let's say in Joe's class, I say, hey, this guy's a craftsman. He knows what he's doing. You can learn good from someone who's going to put a positive input in and who cares about what they are doing. You know, it's good to look for that as opposed to someone who's just there to kill time.
Many young people have a tendency to describe school with one word, boring. And I'm wondering, panel, how do you handle the word boring when you hear it? Judy?
Well, I think that oftentimes when a kid said that school is boring, what he means is that it has no personal relevance to him, that there's nothing in his real world, the things that have meaning to him, his social life, his parents with his problems, the pressures he feels at school, that have any connection to what's going on in the classroom. And if I hear a kid say that something I'm doing is boring, I take it very personally. I feel like there's some way in which I'm missing the boat, that I could offer them more connection between their relevant personal world and the subject we're teaching. And the other aspect is that sometimes subjects are legitimately boring, and that we need to break through the boring and see what's really going on here. What's the resistance to learning this? Do you have a block? Get them participating in it. What's boring is sitting there and listening to somebody rap, pretending like they think you're getting it and you're not. And when you bring them into it, bring them up to the board, get them involved, somehow everybody wants to be a star, and it's not so boring anymore.
That's a good point. Joe, you had something you wanted to say on this too.
Well, I think boring in a woodworking class is a lot different than an English class or math class. The students are up, they're around, they're creative, and the shop is noisy. It's almost impossible for that class to be, as a woodworking class, to be boring.
Have you students been in a boring class that you can? Yes, Leon, tell us about a boring class. No names, please.
Well, I have a boring class this semester, and I won't say the class because this teacher might be watching.
For sure. We'll hope that everybody's watching Teen Talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good. Sure. But I think, well, basically the teacher sounds like a textbook or educational film, which kind of tends to turn you off more to the subject, and you know, just kind of like put your pencil down, and just like flake out for a second, or you know.
It seems so sad to me that so often teachers forget that their voice is really a very important quality, and that they really must work on their voice to make it interesting and sound exciting and be a little bit alive, more than the dead monotone that many of them use. Marina, do you have any boring classes, or you know any boring teachers?
Yeah, it's just like some teachers, they kind of ramble on with these big words, you know, and you're like, excuse me, but your articular, you know, grammar is like too copious and diminutive for my comprehension. Can you please talk in English? You know, they just kind of sit there. They're boring. They don't respond to the students' reactions. They just sit there and ramble on, and you don't know what they're saying. You're just like, God help me.
I use a big word. I know a big word. Delicatessen is a very big word that I use.
Bagels and cream cheese.
Bagels and cream. Are any of you teachers interested in how you relate to your students as people, whether you come on with apply yourself to their feelings, their needs that way? Chuck, do you hear about that, or is it the course, the curriculum, the material?
It's a mixture of both, Joe. One of the things that you try to do to communicate them is the importance of the course. That's the reason we're here and why the course is there. The other thing that I find difficult to come back to try and get close to them is that I'm looking at 150 faces a day, literally coming through the door, and it takes me a little while to get close to them. So I do things to try and make sure I learn their first names, try to recognize them on sight, and then in limited time, which is only 1 hour, is try to get some rapport with them as soon as possible, because then eye contact and everything comes into play, and then you start communicating. Up until that time, you started playing a structured game.
That's
so I try
neat. I do agree with that too. I like to get to know my students' names at the end of 2 hours. The first 2 days, just getting to play all kinds of games so that we really understand and know each other, and that the kids can talk to one another as a result right afterwards, and then we're going to discuss different things. Judy, what do you do to make yourself really known to your students and let them get known to you?
Well, I think it begins with me making myself accessible to them. I have a first name, I have a last name, they know I have a child, that somehow I expose myself in a certain way that encourages their openness. And it goes both ways. You can't expect a child to come to you, or a young person, and admit to you that they're terrified that they might be pregnant, and you've never shared anything about yourself. And it doesn't mean that I have to get into loads of self-disclosure, but in many ways I expose my humanness. I've cried in classrooms, I laugh when they laugh, I laugh at myself. I am part of their world. And I'm not into the power differential of I'm authority and up here and I don't have toes and I never go to the bathroom. I'm very human, and
Very
that
human.
encourages their humanness.
Do you remember any really human teachers that you've been exposed to?
Judy is probably one of the easiest teachers to relate to. I mean, she comes into a class true as a substitute, and most of the time you get a substitute and people go, we got a substitute, we can either miss class or we can just go in there and talk the whole time. She gets an immediate rapport with the class, says, hi, I'm here, your teacher's not. He does have this assignment. We can always, she talks with the class. She is with the class. It's not, I'm above you, you're down there, you're the students. And I have, a teacher who's like that. And the students will look at him and say, you're wrong. I am not wrong. I am the teacher. I can't remember a day we haven't done one thing in this class. And students are going, I can remember lots of days when we've just sat here and done nothing. A teacher can't be on this level. I am God. He has to be with the students.
Leon, what do you look for? What do you like in a teacher besides that energy that you were talking about?
In a substitute or a regular
Well,
teacher?
anybody, any teacher.
Well, other than that, if he has a nice personality, he or she has a nice personality. If I can see not getting into a personality class with them, then I'll try to get along with any teacher, regardless of what kind of personality they have.
Are schools as good as they used to be? And I've been hearing a lot of complaints about schools, talking about, the relationship of kids to the school and school to the kids. Maybe there's a changing. Are schools as good as they used to be 15 years ago when you first started teaching?
I don't think that I want to get into are they as good. I know that attitudes have changed, social attitudes, and particularly attitudes about education. They have changed. Things have changed drastically. But I think relationships, a relationship is something that I think transcends all these changes. It remains the same. To get along with another person, I don't think that has anything to do with whether it's in the early 60s or in the late 70s or early 80s, no.
Sometimes there seems to be an undeclared war existing in many classrooms, and I'm wondering, what are some of the suggestions you people would make to solve some of the hostility that's going on in the classroom? Maureen, what would you suggest?
Okay, well, there's a lot of times when a lot of times you can't make it to class on time, or something happens and you can't make it to class, and a lot of teachers, they yell at you and tell you, you're just a goof up and everything, and a lot of times it's just not your fault, and they make you be afraid to come in late or be afraid to come to class, so you just kind of are really awkward to go in there. And then there's another teachers that.
And then what do you do? What do you do when they make you afraid?
Well, a lot of times if I'm too afraid to go into class because I'll be embarrassed to walk in, or I'll feel that he's going to just yell at me, I'll just, a lot of times I won't even go to class.
So your reaction to that kind of of anger on the teacher's part is frustration on your part and turn
It just,
away
you feel
and
too
shine.
awkward to walk into the class. And it's
Okay,
just-
I understand. Leon, what do you do?
I guess the best thing I would do is, well, there are two things I would do. One thing would stare at the teacher, you know, just plain blank, look at him while he's
We're
he or
playing
she
a
is up
staring
there.
game contest, yes.
Yeah,
and
and while he's in blaming, and then kind of think to myself, a little nasty thought, or are you through, and sit down, or I would ask the teacher, well, I mean, I would just say to the teacher, well, I'm sorry, but such and such and such and such and so on went on, and why, what happened.
so you're going to talk to the person in an adult kind of way, you telling him what went on and how you feel about it.
Right.
Joe, what do you do? What do you do when the anger and the hostility comes through with some of the students?
Well, first of all, I say, okay, let's step outside. So I take that away from the class.
Grabs a 2x4.
With his with the club in his hand, and yes, you go outside.
And the drill.
We go outside and we talk.
Uh-huh.
And once they are away from their peers, it's a whole new different ball game. It's one-on-one, and we can be honest with one another, and we can solve the problem.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a big fight with any of your teachers, Dennis?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened?
I feel bad about it, and I try to, you know, discuss it separately. I think that's where the problem comes in. The teacher tries to set an example for the rest of the class, so they're afraid to do. I don't think I don't think that's really right.
The power play is on.
Yeah, they make you. They really make you embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. They really do. They know. They know certain kinds of ways to embarrass you in front of the class. I don't like that negative kind of reinforcement.
I don't think so.
Incidentally, I don't think it works
I
too
just
well.
don't think it's
Judy, you don't do that kind of stuff, do you?
No, I don't believe in humiliation. I have too much pain about humiliation myself. I had an experience when I was teaching at a private school full-time. I came into a psychology class in October, and prior to my coming, there were 6 other teachers in that classroom who came and went. They couldn't deal with the students. And when I got there, I just expected them to eat me up because I thought I had all kinds of relevant and wonderful things to teach them, and I was all excited about learning from them. But they had no way of knowing that and no reason to trust me. Everyone that had come in left them. And there was a lot of talking in the classroom. They were shining me on, and I took it for about 2 days. And then it never occurred to me to attack them. What I did was told them how I was feeling. And I was in so much pain, I really started crying in the class, not sobbing uncontrollably, but I had tears coming down, and I told them that it really hurt me, that they didn't want what I had to give, and I told them I was also hurting for them, that it was clear that they had never been able to attach, that why should they trust me, and how could they possibly know or guess that we could have something cooking. And that was the beginning of a great class. But I would never attack before I looked to myself to see my responsibility or attempt to understand what had been going on with them. Or if there's a single student, talk to them, what's going on between us. Never.
It sounds like you would be one of my very favorite teachers for sure. Tell us about your favorite teacher. As you think about it for just a moment, what are some of the qualities that you loved? Chuck, without thinking about it, Chuck?
The person was organized. This is the first thing. Came in and there was a sort of a definite order that you could count on, and an expectancy was there that you could rely on. The person was generally fair, challenged you, and then you felt good when you met the challenge. So I had several very good teachers in high school that set a pattern for me, and I try to copy them in their approach, and I think it's successful.
Irit, who was your favorite teacher?
I think I don't know a favorite teacher, but I think an interesting teacher, a fair teacher, and a well-organized teacher. I think that's very important because it sort of puts your whole life in order. You're not confused when you confront a well-organized teacher. And I think fairness is a very, very important quality in a teacher.
You've just been appointed the Secretary of Education. What changes do you sweep into the public schools throughout the United States? Dr. Jeff, what do you do?
Pretty much, I guess the courses have already been established, and you have your recommendations that must be met. And in my opinion, they are good recommendations or good requirements. You know, say, hey, the kids have to take this much math, English, and so on and so forth. What I wish I could do, though, which couldn't be done, is kind of instate a sense of humility in everyone and a sense of personal feeling in teachers and students alike. And my favorite classes have always been one where there's interaction and a lot of talking. But I guess, you know, I couldn't instate that as the Secretary of Education, but if I could, that's where my greatest learning comes from. Talking with teachers who have a lot to offer, and again, you know, giving your input and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Maureen, what would you do?
I don't know. That's really. I'm stuck.
That's
I really,
okay. Joe?
I go along with him.
Yeah, he said
Yes,
everything
everything.
just fine. You can't.
Everything. I go along with you.
Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of energy to go to school and consciously decide not to learn. When things are not going right, it helps to talk to teachers on a person-to-person level about feelings, needs, and problems. For teachers and students alike, I want to recommend the chapters on student-teacher relationships in the Teenage Survival Guide by Catherine McCoy and the wonderful book You by Dr. Saul Gordon. Panel, I think you really taught me a couple of good lessons. This is Joe Feinstein for Teen Talk saying, we'll see you soon.